Now, before we can actually run this, we do have a little issue with a many-to-many relationship that needs to be broken down. And the many-to-many is instructor to course. So right now, the way we have instructor to course, it is many-to-many, and we need a bridge table. And you'll notice that the bridge table simply pulls in the primary key from instructor and from course. And we can actually use Fluent API to create this table. And not only will MVC create it for us, they will maintain it for us, which is even more important. So the creation and maintenance of this table all is going to take place behind the scenes. Okay, so the code that we're going to be entering is modelbuilder.entity, and all Fluent API code begins with model builder. And the first line is indicating that it is a many-to-many. So we have many instructors with many courses, many-to-many. And then we're basically just telling it what the first key and the second key are. And we're telling it to take the data and throw it in a course instructor table. Okay, so we are going to be generating that. And then I did want to point out that with our current business rules and the way we have designed our tables, the instructor to office assignment is a 1 to 0 or 1. And the instructor to department, as far as the administrator goes, is again, a department is going to have 0 or 1 instructors as the administrator. So those are a little unusual. You don't have a 1 to 0 or 1 normally. So other updates that we need to do. We are going to have to update the context to build the table, to build our new bridge table. And then we are going to have to update our migrations. We'll probably want to do some seed values for production data in our new tables. Then we'll be adding a migration, we'll be updating the migration. And if you run into errors, the easiest thing to do is actually just give the database a new name. Okay, if you give the database a new name, everything will be clean. Okay. Another option would be you can actually drop the database by going into the SQL Server Object Explorer, right-clicking, deleting it, and then when you update database, it'll generate it again. Okay, so those are the two primary problems. They're with the database, and you're going to see them when you do the update database command. And I would only go to these resolution methods if the update database command doesn't work. And having said that, what we're going to do now is we're going to modify the context class, and then we're going to add our seed code. So I do have a school context file, and it's got all of the existing tables, plus we're adding the new ones. And again, the new ones are department, instructor, and office assignment. So we're adding those new tables. And then we're adding the code below that to create our bridge table. Okay, so this is the code for the bridge table. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight all of this. And we need to open our school context file. And that was in our data access layer, for those of you who can't remember. And I'm just going to paste that code in and save it. And for those of you who want to know more about Fluent API, I did include a link to that here that you can select, and you can read more about Fluent API overrides, because that is what it's used for. It's used for overriding MVC5 conventions. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to replace and add some seed code. This is under migrations and configuration. Here is the code that we are going to be adding. So we did have some seed code in there already. And we're just going to be adding some more for instructor and departments. And you'll notice that we had to modify the code for course because now we have department in there. And then office assignment. Okay, so it's a much lengthier file than it was before. And we're going to go ahead, copy all of it. And again, this was our configuration file. That is where the seed data is. And let's do a little save on that. So a couple things to note. After you've done migrations, if you modify the seed method, it should contain production data. For courses and instructors, our code is a little different than before. And that's basically because we have department in there now. So we've also added, add or update here. So if it already exists, it just updates it. If it's new, it adds it. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to save all and run a build. And then we're going to add a migration for all of the complex data models that we just created. Now, we're not going to update it right away because there is a change that we need to make in that complex data model class that it's going to generate. So let's do our build. We're going to go into the package manager console. We're going to add migration. And we're calling this complex data model. Once we get that complex data model file, we do need to go in and make a little bit of an adjustment. The problem that we're going to run into, and if we don't make this adjustment, we're going to get an error. The problem we're going to run into is that the department ID is a foreign key. And in some tables, and because we don't have any departments currently in those existing tables, it's going to flag an error. So what we're going to have to do is kind of create a temporary department and add that to existing data. And that'll be until we can update that data with the real departments. So how do we fix this? Well, we're going to go into this complex data model class. Okay, and you can see in the up method, we are modifying department and instructor. We're adding office assignment, course instructor. This is our bridge table. You see it specifying keys, foreign keys, indexing, all of that. And where we need to make this little change is for department right here. Because we have existing courses already and they don't have departments assigned, that is going to generate an error. So let's comment this out. And we need to basically insert 2 lines of code. We have to, first of all, create a department for the course to point to. And this is just going to be kind of like a dummy department, just so we don't get errors. Okay, so I put in a little comment, create a course or a department for the course to point to. And you can see we're doing an insert into department and name, budget, start date. You can see the name is temp, the budget is 0, and we're getting the current date. So this is going to be like our dummy value so that we don't get errors. Then we need a default value for the foreign key to point to. Okay, so we're going to add that default value for the foreign key. So we've got the course, this is the foreign key, and so we're saying that the default value is 1, and that refers to this first record. Okay, so inserting that record, okay, and then adding the column is going to prevent the errors because we set the default value to 1, which is our new temporary record. Okay, and remember, it actually runs through this code before it does the seed code. Okay, because you might be thinking, well, why do we have to do that when in our seed we're adding to department? Okay, well, the problem is it's going to run through this code which generates the database, the tables, and the columns. It runs through that before it seeds them. That is the problem. Okay, and in the seed, because we have add or update for everything, what it's then going to do is it's going to fill in the departments with the actual data. So that temporary value is going to go away. Okay, so it's going to be in there just when the tables are created, and then it'll run the seed, and that temp value will be gone. So at this point, let's do a save all and run a build. Okay, hopefully that succeeded. And all of the changes that we just made were to context files. Okay, and we also changed the complex data model. We did the configuration and the complex data model, and we changed the school context. None of those affect the database itself. So we do not need to do an add migration. What we need to do is an update database. Okay, because we want it to run through the configuration, we want it to run through the complex data model, and we want it to run through and get all that new data. So let's do update database. And we're going to press enter. The only time you need to actually do an add migration is if you are changing a model that's going to affect the table itself. Okay, so we've updated the database. It said it ran the seed. So now we know our data should be in there. So let's run the app. All right, so let's see. Go into courses. Let's go into enrollment. Everything does seem to be working. So let's exit out. You can see that we do need to generate controllers and views for our 3 new tables. And we do need to modify the existing controller and view for our courses because it's not showing department. So let's get out of here. And we are going to make those changes. So now that we have everything that we need built in, we can go ahead and add controllers. We're just going to generate them. So I'm going to add a new scaffolded item, MVC5 controller with views. And actually, I think I'm going to do a new video for this one.